Go over some of the details in the Emily Sotelo case that happened a couple of years ago. I've watched quite a few videos online now, and I've noticed a lot of the details are actually incorrect, and that's not necessarily anyone's fault. The media hasn't always conveyed the correct information or used the most accurate maps. So I'm going to begin at the Lafayette Place campground here, and I'll zoom in. So basically, the Lafayette Place campground refers to this parking lot here on the left. The Sotelo family is from Massachusetts, so it's most likely that she and her mother were ascending northbound on I-93 here, and there's no way to cross over to the Lafayette Place campground parking lot. So they there's one or two things probably happened. They either continued northbound and turned around and went southbound and then went to this parking lot here on the left, or Lafayette, the mother was referring to the right side as Lafayette Place campground as well, even though that's really just the Falling Waters trailhead parking lot. And obviously, as you can see here, there's a tunnel for pedestrian traffic from the campground side, and then right here, you can see where the trail actually begins. There's like an outhouse here, and this is actually the old Bridle Path trailhead. So I've seen some things about the Falling Waters Trail. I actually am not sure the Falling Waters Trail has really anything to do with this case, because it really only makes sense for Emily to have ascended the old Bridle Path. And I actually know someone, so there's like a creek here. I actually know someone who's twisted their ankle here. So this, when the trail sort of gets near this river here, it can be difficult to navigate. And, once you're past there, you continue along the old Bridle Path, which is not that bad of an ascent. It is in roughly the 2,000 to 3,000 range, I believe, until the hut. I've hiked this several times. Greenleaf Hut here is closed for the season, and in November when Emily was hiking, I've hiked this trail countless times, and a lot of people are saved by this hut and are really like unprepared. One Labor Day weekend a couple years ago, I saw someone in a suit. I saw people in flip flops. I saw people in streetwear. So there's a lot of people who survive this hike. It's a really popular day hike, but they are definitely utilizing this hut when it's open, but it was locked up and bolted like they do every winter in November. So the final stretch of the trail here, somewhere along this path, Emily had texted her mother about lunch arrangements and things to pick up for the end of the hike. And that's the last communication from her. And then the media has posted a picture where Emily's remains were recovered in this brook here. This is very incorrect. This is the other side of the mountain. This is the northeast. And the search and rescue agencies had repeatedly stated it was the source of the Lafayette Brook on the northwest where she was found at these headwaters here. So people have theorized that, it probably wasn't here where she got lost near the hut. It was exposure. This white represents the tree line, the area that's not covered by tree line. You're exposed completely to the elements. And there's a couple of these turns. I think this is the most common turn that people miss. It's rocky, and it's easier to miss when you don't have the trees. So it's likely that this spot here was where she left the trail and continued descending while being subjected to the harsh weather. And but that's just a theory. And just zooming out for a sec, just to get the trails right here. The search and rescue agencies had reported, through her family, that she had planned to ascend Lafayette and Liberty and Flume. Just going to double check that it's Haystack and Flume. So Lafayette, Haystack, and Flume. Flume is all the way down here, so she wouldn't have had anything to do with the Falling Waters. She wouldn't have had anything to do with, I think, the Liberty. Well, it's the AT. And then Flume Slide, of course. So Flume Slide in the winter is treacherous. By winter here, I'm always referring to like winter conditions, which is Columbus Day to Memorial Day, more or less. So I'm surprised that, honestly, one of my first impressions is I'm surprised you was texting lunch arrangements while on this trail still. Hadn't even gotten to Lafayette and had all this way on the ridge to Flume, and was definitely not going to be down by lunch. Maybe she had figured she was going to descend the Falling Waters, but very tragic. And you know, I see a lot of comments online whenever I've read about this case where people who sit at home and consume content are really judgmental about people who risk their lives. You know, this was a needless death, I believe, but you know, sometimes mistakes happen, and this was a couple big mistakes that you can't recover from. You know, winter weather on Lafayette with sneakers is a pretty bad recipe for disaster. But yeah, and one other point I wanted to make was I've seen like mountain climbing channels cover this. This was not a climb. Like, make no mistake, there's basically hiking and there's climbing. This is hiking, and most people who get stuck in these situations in the Northeast are hiking. They're not climbing. There's no technical gear involved. There are opportunities in this region to climb. You know, people in, for example, like the Huntington Ravine. Well, some of them are hiking, but there are opportunities to like climb, actually like mountain climb and mountaineer there. This was hiking. This is a old bridle path. Is like I'm pretty sure it's like an old horse trail, and it's, you know, very well gradated for the Northeast, that is. And I don't believe any mountaineering skills were involved. There shouldn't have been any mountaineering gear. This is a hike. And, you know, on one last note, you know, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people do this hike in the winter every year. The winter weather's bad, but if you pick a good weather day, people survive it every day. You know, I did hikes in the Whites this winter with snowshoes and the proper gear, and obviously checking the weather. But anyway, just wanted to cover a couple details. You know, as I covered, the media had gotten the location. She was found wrong. People were talking about the Falling Waters Trail, which is this 2.3 mile segment, it's a little haystack. It was the old bridle path to Lafayette. Anyway, thanks for watching.